Good evening, you're live and worldwide on the official live stream of ramblemedia.tv. This is Super Game Bros. I am your host, Ricky McMillan, and this evening I'm joined, as always, by Danny Black.
Hello.
This week we've got, as one of our guests, Nicola Radron, who's just recently joined the team at ramblemedia.tv, and we've got our own equivalent of J. Jonah Jameson, Will Hamilton, with us. How you doing, folks?
Not too bad, thanks.
Excellent.
Good, excited.
Yeah, well, folks, this is Nicola's first time doing a podcast, so hopefully it's not going to be our last either. Now, this week we've got a couple of varied subjects for you. Hopefully later on we're going to be talking about the SPECTRE trailer for the new James Bond movie. But first I'd like to ask a question of the group. What makes a gamer a gamer? Now, I've got a reason for asking that question. I was reading a study that was recently done. It was more a survey, and what the figures came across as was that 49% of gamers are female, and that's why I'm glad you're here with us tonight, Nicola, because you can give a female perspective being a gamer. Of what I'm going to say. Now, 49% of gamers are female, and what kept coming up in the comments for the forums and things, the people that were following this article was, well, if 49% of gamers are women, or, girls or whatever, then where are they? Because they're not playing on console, and there was some people saying they're not playing on PC, and the majority of people were all agreeing that they were all playing, on mobile devices, laptops, not laptops, tablets and mobile phones. And I started getting really annoyed at that, because I know a good few female gamers who play on consoles, who play on PC, who play on mobile devices. And that started to really annoy me. And then the more I was reading, they were saying, that people who play mobile games, on your Android phone or your Android tablet, all these smart devices, anyone who plays games on those devices, they're not a real gamer. Now, I personally don't agree with that, right? I think what makes someone a gamer is the ability to think and reason, and to obviously use the controls, whether it be on a mobile device, whether it be on a PC, whether it be on a console, using the joypad and whatever. Now, I don't know, Nicola, I'd like to ask you first, being a woman, what do you think it is that makes a gamer a gamer? What is it some kind of intangible, or is there a specific grouping of things that you have to do that make you a gamer?
I don't think so, and there's been lots and lots of discussion about this, hasn't there, in social media and within sort of gaming communities about what's a gamer, what is a gamer. There's even been, the whole antagonistic side of it where, gamers are dead or gamers are over, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I think it just boils down to whether you think you're a gamer or not. Do you play video games? Yes. If you play video games, then as far as I'm concerned, you're a gamer. And regardless of whether that's on a mobile device or whether it's on PC or whether it's on console, I don't think it really matters. I mean, if you look at some of the mobile games that are available now, I mean, they're really sophisticated. I mean, I'm playing Knights of the Old Republic on my iPad. That's a sophisticated game. And it isn't something necessarily that you could apply casual gamer to, if you want to even get down to the nitty-gritty of calling somebody a casual gamer or calling somebody a hardcore gamer,
Yeah, I can actually see your point there, Nicola. Now, Danny, I'd like to come to you. What about yourself? What do you say? Is it, as I asked Nicola, is it an intangible quality that makes someone a gamer, or is it, is there specific, physical and mental things that you can do that make you a gamer? And just to broaden that definition, to me, someone who sits and plays, your board games, your Monopoly, your Trivial Pursuits, that sort of thing, they can be classed as a gamer as well, because they play games. The reason they have to think. To me, that's, and by the way, folks, I'd just like to point out that, the fact that they can reason and they have to think, that wasn't initially my answer. That was someone else's answer, but, I've just kind of stolen it from them.
yeah.
Because the more I thought about it, the more I realised, you know, in my opinion, that's the right answer. You know, but that's just my opinion. What about yourself, Danny? What would you think?
I think if you play any games at all, like say Monopoly, Cluedo, any of those games you're a gamer, it doesn't matter whether it has to be on a PC or console. It just matters whether it's board game or console. It doesn't matter to me. If it's a game, it's a game. It doesn't matter the platform.
So you think that it's not determined by platform, and it's not
No,
determined by what people actually play. So
no.
it's more a process, a mental process then, as Nicola was pointing out. You know, if you think you're a gamer, then you're a gamer.
Yes. If
Yeah,
you're a
would you
gamer,
agree
you're a
with that?
gamer. It doesn't matter your platform.
Okay. Now, well, I'd like to turn to you. What about these people who, to me, they're gamers because they do play video games. But what about the people that limit themselves to maybe one or two games? You know, I'm looking more along the lines of your professional gamers, the people who make money on Twitch and YouTube and whatever from playing video games. Would you say that those people could they be classed in the same category as like your casual gamer, or is their category in and of itself?
What would you say is it's an all-inclusive category when it comes to gamer, because there are obviously for it for the like the now emerging Twitch streamers, the people who will sit in their bedroom or wherever they are playing games and being paid for it by their subscribers. You then get the professional gamers who are like the esports gamers, the ones who are being paid by big companies to represent them in games competitions. That kind of thing's been about, although it's not maybe so much as prominent because anybody can be a gamer, but you need to be really really good at that kind of thing. In my opinion, in what makes a gamer, it's to me it's just having a thumb to be able to understand what they're doing, essentially. Because I mean, games come in all different shapes and sizes. Obviously, they come in board games, which at the same time makes you a gamer if you're a gamer. It doesn't have to be on a console or on a PC or on a mobile device. That's something that you enjoy. If it's a game, you're a gamer.
Right, so I think we can all agree that there's not so much gamer isn't so much a defined part of playing video games. Being a gamer, and it's not even a way of life. Would it be fair to say that gamer is a culture that surrounds the video game industry,
That's
or would you
that,
would
that's
you say it's a larger thing?
I
aye.
think
I would say it is a big part of culture these days. I mean, like look at 20, 30 years ago when gaming had just emerged as we know it now, all the games consoles and Nintendo and the Master System, etc. Like one of those, oh, it's a bedroom hobby that the kids should only be allowed to do a couple of hours a day, stuff like that. But it's now got to the point where as far as I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I'm willing to believe, the games industry actually makes more money than the music industry. So it's definitely something it's still on the rise, and I can easily see it bypass the movie industry at some point in the future as well, because look at the kind of money that they put into these things. It's literally millions and millions of pounds that they put into production.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to agree there. I mean, it was what was it? I think the figure was 65 million pounds I seen that was or quoted that was put into Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I dare say, you know, it's a superb game, and they certainly made their money back in the first 24 hours. But still, that's like an A-list movie budget.
It's the most it's according to newspapers etc. I mean, you never get a picture of it, but according to some newspapers, it's the most anyway, it's the most expensive video. It's something like $260 million, sorry, $260 million, which is roughly 170 million pounds. So
Yes.
you easily believe them making movies for less than that are big budget AAA titles, like summer blockbusters and stuff. So I mean, that's one single game, and it's probably made twice that in revenue.
Aye. And Nicola, what about yourself? What's your take on that? Would you say that gaming is more it's a culture thing, or would you say that it's more expansive than that?
I think
It's
I don't know really. I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because the whole traditional gamer identity has been something that was defined a long time ago when it was a niche sort of hobby. And everybody's got a picture in their head of like a stereotypical gamer, if you like, and I don't really want to draw that picture because I think it's moved on from there. I mean, going back to your original sort of opening gambit where you're saying that you've read this study that 49% of gamers are female, I mean, is that question actually taking into account, the amount of people who play Facebook games, for example? I would still argue that, the mom who's playing Farmville, you know, for 4 hours a day is as much a gamer as, the young lad, the stereotypical young lad playing Call of Duty, shouting in his bedroom. I would say that they are the same thing, really. And this idea of gamer culture is something that's probably moved on a little bit now. But the way that people define it perhaps hasn't. Does that make sense? Because
yeah, that does that makes a lot of sense actually. I mean, I'm sure you would agree with that as well, Danny. You know that Nicola made a really good point there with the fact that whether or not the study's actually saying that it's 49% gamers are female, and you've got all these other gamers asking, well, where are they playing? It's more a case of, well, that answer's kind of self-evident. They're there. You just don't know who they are.
yeah, well, I mean, there's always anonymity on the net, isn't there? I mean, and I guess, if somebody's got, let's say, a gamer tag or their Steam ID or whatever, they can choose a completely genderless name, and if they're not speaking, in games, then how would anybody know what gender you are anyway? I think there's just an assumption that anybody on the internet playing a video game is a man, and I think that assumption is wrong. To be quite honest, because the likelihood is that you're playing against a female gamer who just is using a genderless ID on the internet. I think it's just an assumption. We're still clinging on to this idea of what gamer is from back in the 80s when it was all a bit underground and it wasn't it was niche. It was a niche thing that people did.
Yeah,
So just to carry on with that a little bit, I mean, I know certainly in my first, I've been video gaming for many, many years, ever since I was a child, and I'm, of advanced years now. But, in terms of actually playing online, I've only been doing that within the last sort of 8 years or so. And initially I didn't actually speak online because whenever I did, and I know some people don't like to hear this, but whenever I did, I would get a torrent of abuse for it. And, when I was new to that, I kind of went, well, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to invite that into what it is I'm doing because all I want to do is play video games. And that, now that I've got a bit more comfortable with what I'm doing online and what I'm saying online and, how to come back to that, it doesn't really matter to me whether somebody realises that I'm a female gamer or not. It really doesn't bother me anymore.
yeah, I totally agree there. I mean, what about yourself, Danny? Do you think that it matters whether it's a female gamer or a male gamer that you're playing against? Do you think that that kind of distinction should even be made? Should they not just be categorised as gamers, whether they're male or female?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me because I've got a few female friends that are really good gamers, some of them are more on the professional side of gaming as well. Could absolutely kick my ass on Call of Duty. I think in terms of setting up like PlayStation profiles and things like that, I think it should be gender neutral. I don't think there should be gender options, so that you can't tell whether you're playing against a male or a female. That's just my opinion.
That's
I mean,
strange.
obviously,
What about yourself, Will?
I can see where Danny's coming from when it comes to the gender thing, but at the same time, you probably find that most people who game online have some kind of leaning towards a certain gender when it comes to that. Right? You know,
All right.
a lot of whereas guys tend to go towards the more like sort of greenish thing or something around that way, or again their names which are obviously going to distinguish them from males. So I mean, obviously the gender neutrality
Yeah. Wait,
doing what they want when it comes to having that kind of distinction.
all right. Okay. Well, I'd just like to say one or two things for anyone who's listening at the moment, or even indeed watching. Watching the live cast, then please, you can more than join in with the conversation with the hashtag SGB Live. And as I said earlier on, we've got Danny on the social media. That's at Ramble Media, hashtag SGB Live. And Danny will put your questions to us. Now, personally, I don't think it matters. I mean, recently PlanetSide 2 was released on the PlayStation 4. And as some of you may know, I play that on the PC as well. And what I did with the PlayStation 4 was I actually created a female character. Just because I wanted to see, what the reactions were from certain people. Now, I'm a guy. I'm 39 this year. And I'm playing a female character on what is, map by map, the largest shooter that I've seen. Yet I've actually came across sexism in that game. You go to revive people and they refuse to take, the revive off you because you're a female. Yeah, because it's a female character. I had a message the very first week the game was released. I had a message for a guy basically saying, lassies shouldn't play this game. And I'm going, and I sent him back and I says, have you actually looked at my gamer tag? Do you realise it's actually a guy you're talking to? I'm just playing a female character. It's like games like Skyrim, and I dare say there's other people playing games like the Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy XIV who are men who are playing female characters, or indeed a female playing male characters. But personally, I don't see the distinction between a male gamer and a female gamer. What I see is a gamer.
What I see is skill level. I mean, like Danny says, it's exactly the same for me. I know quite a few female gamers who quite easily pick me. I don't see it as she's a female, so we need to go easier on her, or I'm a guy, so I should instantly be better than her. And because it's simply not true. There is literally no distinction between a male and a female when it comes to gaming. It's all skill level, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched live streams with people where they're playing games like, say, a few years back, Command and Conquer, and even League of Legends, that sort of thing, where when you're listening to them, it's clearly a female, and you know yourself that if you were playing that game, even if you'd been playing it for 5 years, whoever this female may be, right, we'll call her Natasha, right? She will completely and utterly destroy you. So yeah, I've got to agree there. To me, a gamer's defined more along the lines of, can they think, can they reason? Yes. Can they use, as you said, can they use their thumbs? Yes. So they're a gamer. It doesn't matter whether they're male, female, or a chimpanzee. They're a gamer because they can do those things. But on top of that, yeah, there comes a certain skill level with each games. I mean, as you know, I'm not the best at like shooting. Well, with the exception of the Fines where I was a god, right? But that's neither here nor there. Uh, the point, what my point is that I'm not the world's best at shooting, but like my wife has only ever played one first person shooter, you know, in my company ever, and that was Battlefield 3. And I was explaining it yourself the other night. Well, she's got a kill death ratio of 2.0 because she didn't die.
Jeez.
But she only ever played it for 5 minutes, Danny, and killed 2 guys.
Yeah.
Right, so while she does have a kill death ratio of 2.0, my wife herself would be the first to admit, you know, she's not the most skillful person at first person shooters. Whereas I've seen other people who are truly devastating at them. I mean, Nicola, I've seen your Destiny video earlier on, and some of the shooting in that was superb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not
Is
going.
that it?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's a very intense video in places.
Yeah.
So there's you get confused with the names above the heads and that sort of thing. So sometimes you can't tell who it is that's doing the shooting. But some of that shooting was impressive. Nearly as impressive as some of Will's, shall we say, rocket jump shots.
Yeah, you.
You know, but getting back to the matter in hand, Danny, do you see any way for obviously last year there was the Gamergate thing and all that, and I don't want to go into Gamergate because, in my personal opinion, it was completely pointless and totally blown so out of proportion.
Yep.
But
It's a far too much prices as.
yeah, that's a whole different subject for a different podcast done by other people because I don't want to talk about it. But do you think that there's going to be at some point in the future shall we say, the misogynists that inhabit the video games industry? Do you think there's going to be a point in time for them where they're going to say, right, women are as good, if no better than guys at video games? Because let's be honest, even though guys are in all the positions of power and this, that and the other, what is it that the saying says? Behind every great man there's a great woman.
Great woman. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do you think that the video games industry, say maybe in this generation, is going to reach that point where there's going to be a level of equality that instead of dividing the video game industry, you know, in between these different camps, male, female, Microsoft, Sony, you know, whoever,
Mm-hmm.
do you think there's a way that they're going to be able to say, right, let's cut out the distinction between the male and female gamer. Everybody's just a gamer. Do you think that process is going to happen, or do you think it's going to take longer than maybe another couple of generations?
I don't think it'll ever happen personally. I think there'll always be that female male thing. I'd like to see it happening, but I don't think it will. Like if you take, for example, Twitch, for example, there's a hell of a lot of female gamers, and they get a hell of a lot of views compared to, say, average male Joe Twitch streamer. You know.
That's all to the credit of the female gamers as well. A lot of them are using their sexuality to get money. Which, let's be fair, if I had the ability, I'd do exactly the same thing. There isn't anything to have a go at them about because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
I think that just to try and, you know, smooth that out a bit. I think that, I mean, I agree. You know, some of the Twitch streamers that I've sort of gone through with the huge followings, and they are female gamers, and you know they've got themselves made up and they look great on camera. And of course, everybody wants to look at somebody who's nice looking, don't they? Essentially, you know, let's all be honest here. Looking at attractive people is preferable to looking at people who are not so attractive. However, I think that in this instance, the reason why these female gamers are getting more views on Twitch, is probably because this idea of the female gamer has been fetishized a little bit, hasn't it? It's like, you know, the idea that a female gamer is like rocking horse doodle, isn't it, really? I mean, one of our mutual friends, Andrew Fodder, he always says that female gamers are like, rocking horse, they're so rare. Then I actually don't think that is the case at all. I personally don't think it's the case. But we've got this idea of what a gamer is, and a female fitting within this idea of what a gamer is just seems really at odds with that, which is why I think they get the increase in views, because there's this idea that, oh, girls can't play video games, and oh, look at her, she's really attractive, and she plays video games. You get it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the other thing, I mean, well, I understand what you were saying about, sex sells, and Nicola, you were mentioning that some of them, they wear the makeup and they get themselves all, dressed up and they've got their cleavage shown and this, that and the other, and I can understand that, but in the same breath, some of the donations that come in for some of these female gamers, like there was a female gamer the other night, I can't remember the game it is that she plays, I think it's League of Legends, but she got $14,000, or the equivalent of $14,000 in donations in one night.
What?
Yes, and that's not because she's, she's a pretty girl. I mean, don't get me wrong, she is a pretty girl, but those donations came in because she is absolutely superb at the game.
Well,
But then in the same breath, I've seen donations to two guys in one night of the equivalent of $70,000 split between the two guys. One of them got 40,000, the other one got 30,000 in one night.
That's insane.
And
there is money to be made on if you're a Twitch, and you have you don't even need to have ability. You just need to be owned enough and have a kind of just be popular. Just have that personality that draws people in and wants people wanting to watch you. I mean, I've never been a big fan of watching other people play games. I mean, even like the Let's Play videos on YouTube and stuff, I was never a fan of them. I'd rather play a game for myself than watch somebody else play it. But I have recently got into Twitch streaming myself, and I can never see me making a full-time job out of it, because even though I like playing games, I don't think I can never split my attention between playing a game and concentrating on it, and also looking back and forward every couple of seconds to someone spoke to me so that I can reply to them. I mean, Nicola, you'll probably remember this for the other night when I was doing it. It took me a couple of minutes at least every time you spoke to me.
Of course, but there is a lag. There is a lag between when somebody inputs the chat to when you actually notice it, or when, for example, you say something, in response, and then you chat a response to that. There is a lag between that. So I think, there is a skill with Twitch. There's definitely a skill. I've done a bit of Twitch streaming myself, and it's difficult. You're trying to play a game and make it engaging and fun for people to watch, but also respond to, chat stuff that's coming off when there's like a 30-second lag between what you said and what they replied on the chat panel. So it's a difficult skill, and if these people are playing well and they're managing to be engaging to their audiences, I don't really see the problem, to be honest.
well, I think the difficulty that we've all found is that we're streaming from this new generation of consoles, right? And because this, the way that they stream it's not set up perfectly. You don't have complete control over the stream. There's no ability to chroma key, for instance. You can put a small title bar on, but you can't do anything with it. You can only change the colour and what you're writing, and even then you're limited. Whereas using a PC, or if you're using a console, you can use a capture card going through a PC to stream with, and that gives you a lot more control, and there's a lot more that you can do just with the stream. Now, it's about how good you are at the game. It's about how gregarious a personality you have, But more importantly, people have got to be interested as well. And the thing that always interests people is your personal life. The problem with that is you're always taught not to give away too much your personal life online. So it's more a case of where do you find the happy medium, and especially as a console gamer right now, it's very difficult. Okay, albeit, and I believe Xbox One's got the same kind of thing as what there is on PlayStation with that live with PlayStation, where people can go and they can look for your channel, for instance, and click on it, and your stream appears. You know,
Yeah.
but it's more difficult to leave a comment on a PlayStation or an Xbox than it is on a PC, because in a PC you've got a keyboard. On the PlayStation and the Xbox, you've got a joypad and you've got to, mess about moving it across letters and things like that. And so I think console streaming as it is right now, it's a bit fiddly for anyone to be of any major success. It's just a strictly I'm streaming from my console and that's it. I think for that to happen, there has to be a game that comes out where there is a small minority of individuals who are beyond measure superb at it, and people are regularly watching them. And they're pulling in 1,000 viewers a night. And Rocket League has the potential, recently released on PlayStation 4, and rumoured to be releasing on Xbox One. Don't know. We done a live review the other week. But that game has the potential to be that big streaming game.
Mm.
The only problem is, it's only the people who are really, really good who are going to get the really, really big numbers. And again, while a lot of people, when you listen to some of these streams, a lot of these, superb players, what you're hearing is a male voice. See that voice that you're not hearing? If there's 6 players in a match, see those 2 voices you're not hearing? They're both women. Or young girls, or whatever, and they're brilliant at the game. Whether it be Rocket League, whether it be, it could be Resident Evil. It doesn't matter. The fact is, those voices that you're not hearing are women, and they're there on the console. They're there on PC. They're there playing mobile games. They're there playing your board games. They're there playing card games. So I don't think there's any distinction in my mind anyway between a male gamer and a female gamer. And I don't think that it matters whether 51% of gamers are male and 49% of gamers are female, because it could just as easily be the other way around. I don't think any of that matters. I think what matters is there needs to be a change in the mindset of the video game industry, and that can only start at the top with the publishers and the developers. And what I mean by that is strong representation of females in games. If you consider it, there is only really 2 female main protagonists in any popular kind of game series, them being Lara Croft and Faith from the Mirror's Edge games. Obviously there's Ellie as well from The Last of Us, but again, that's a different kind of game. It doesn't put Ellie at the forefront until maybe halfway through. So while you're emotionally invested in Ellie, you're emotionally invested in her as an armed babysitter up to a point. Faith and Lara Croft, they appear to be the only 2 major female protagonists in games, and I think there needs to be more representation of females in games as a lead protagonist.
Shell for Portal as well.
Yes, sorry. Yes, that's a character I keep forgetting about.
Wasn't really suit though, this one. It's
There is a few. Obviously, there are some that aren't as. You wouldn't expect them to be obviously prominent as others. I mean, there are tons of them. I mean, there are lots and lots of strong female characters, but some of them stand out more because they're, I don't know how we can say it. They're more prominent in gaming culture because they're more popular.
On the subject of female gamers, there's a new game coming out called Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's got a female protagonist, and I cannot wait for that game.
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? I was excited by the
It does look really good.
E3 presentation.
That was Guerrilla Games' Project Horizon, is that correct?
Yes.
I've got to admit, the whole premise of that game is fantastic. Who wouldn't love running about an open world Earth, shooting robotic dinosaurs? Brilliant. Whoever came, whoever came up with that, give them an award. Now, you were going to say something there, Will?
If that's not a so it is. I mean that game and the other one, Rico. Both of them look awesome. I mean, I'm fairly certain it's a female character.
Yeah, it is. I believe David, when he was on the podcast last, he mentioned something about Rico and that it was a female protagonist. Now, obviously, folks, Super Game Bros is the official live cast of the RambleMedia.tv website, and currently, right now, Lorraine's having a bit of difficulty trying to work out, what game that she wants to play against. And what I mean by that is she's starting a new column called Lorraine Versus, and we've got a poll running on the site at the moment. You can check that out at RambleMedia.tv. And we're looking for your votes, folks. And I believe that Will has some news as well about a returning series. Is that correct, Will?
Yes. But first, I want to pop in because obviously got some listeners on the live stream as well, both Lorraine and David, female shepherd from the North Effect.
Yes. Well, there's Femshep, but that's a character that you yourself can create as a female. And again, I don't know how having a female shepherd would work, say, in a multiplayer environment, because if I remember rightly, in Mass Effect 3, you couldn't be Femshep. I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yes, you could, yes.
Could you? Right. So, Nicola? Did you ever play as Femshep?
All I played as Femshep. Jennifer voice acting in that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I've played Mass Effect many times. I've played it as Femshep many times and as the Mercer as well, but the Femshep is the best. And I think a lot of people actually agree with that sentiment, that her voice acting in it is so good that really it is the definitive way to play Mass Effect.
Well, there you go, folks. That's a
Just saying.
yeah, exactly. That's a turn up for the books, as they say. Danny, what about yourself? Did you play Mass Effect games as Femshep?
I have never played Mass Effect. I do have a friend who's a massive Mass Effect Mass Effect fan, and we actually got to meet both the voices, the actors and actresses in Mass Effect. The name escapes me of the male character. I have pictures as well with both of them at Belfast Comic Con. And he was just absolutely beside himself. He couldn't believe he was meeting these characters. It was just so funny watching his face just drop when he walked on the stage.
Well, that's interesting. Now, Will, you're back to your announcement, my friend.
I started in another website that I was a member of just about this time last year. A segment that we were running on the podcast that we were running there. It was called the Rocket List. Technically, the Rocket List is a play on the bucket list, and it's with regard to my ever-growing pile. I mean, I've got literally about 350 games from my Xbox 360, and quite a few for both my PlayStation 3, my PlayStation 4, and my Xbox One as well. So I've decided to reload the Rocket List on Rumble Media, just so that the community can help me basically affect what I'm going to be playing, because I really want to do this list of games, and I'm one of these people who I'll play a couple of hours of one game and then I won't play it again. So many others to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a poll up on the website, which members of the site can then vote on. It'll be 3 or 4 games every month, and the one that gets picked most is the game that I play for the next month. I'll then review the game on the website, and then I'll talk about it on the following podcast after.
That's excellent. So there you have it, folks. Will's bringing back his rocket list. And you'll be able to find out more details on the website, which is again ramblemedia.tv. And speaking of ramblemedia.tv, we've had a competition running, and tonight and tomorrow, or this week, sorry, is the last chance to enter the competition to win access to the Black Ops 3 multiplayer beta test. Again, details of that are on the Ramble Media website. Now, moving on. Did any of you see the SPECTRE trailer for the new James Bond movie?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
What about yourself, Will? Did you see it?
It looks awesome. It really looks good.
Well, I'll be completely, perfectly honest. I love James Bond. I loved Big Sean Connery. Yes, well, you see, Miss Moneypenny. I loved all that. I loved Roger Moore and his one eyebrow. He's like Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum's the world's greatest hand actor. Well, Roger Moore's the world's greatest eyebrow actor, even better than Dwayne Johnson. But Pierce Brosnan, I thought was a great Bond. Timothy Dalton, he was good at what he did, and he was only there for 2 films. George Lazenby was another one that, well, he could have been something special and ended up not being. Daniel Craig, on the other hand, I didn't know so much. It took me years and years and years before I actually sat down to watch his version of Casino Royale.
I've really enjoyed the Daniel Craig movies, to be fair, because it's taken it. I mean, I've enjoyed all the Bond movies. I've been a Bond fan since I was born. So I've watched every single Bond movie. Got to be at least a couple of times. They used to have them on at Christmas every year when I was young. Daniel Craig ones seem to be moving away from the high-tech gadget, moving more to like a less silly story, if you know what I mean. It's got to the point now where the stories that Daniel Craig's character is in seem perfectly plausible, rather than people trying to take over the moon, or a guy with giant metal teeth when he walks out to people in a cable car up the middle of a mountain. You know what I mean? It's I don't know how to explain it. I think I enjoy these more than the old one was. It's more grounded in reality.
So do you think that it's do you think that that's one of the things that, they tried to do with Daniel Craig? They deliberately tried to bring it back to the way Ian Fleming envisioned
Aye.
007?
I think they might have taken it too far out of there when they were doing the old movies. I mean, I get like the old Sean Connery one and driving the Aston Martin, and the silly stuff dropping out the exhaust and the underneath of the undercarriage to stop them. That's all perfectly plausible. But when they start flying about the wind jetpacks and stuff, that's when it looks silly.
Ah.
I mean, even some of the Pierce Brosnan ones as well. I mean, like a stealth ship, which I get the idea they probably exist. Let's be fair, it's not going to be in James Bond's remit to chase a stealth ship through the Taiwanese Ocean or something like that. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but you get what I mean? I mean, it's something that it was in the Daniel Craig movies. It's all perfectly plausible things that like, a person could do.
Aye, yeah, I agree with that. A bit like the Jason Bourne movies as well. I mean, is that your take on the Daniel Craig movies, Danny? They're closer to reality than any previous Bond.
I think that they are. They're more grounded in reality. I think they're following what I call the Nolan formula, where he bases his movie more in reality rather than CGI crazy kind of stuff. And they're all the better for it. Now that's not to say I didn't enjoy previous movies with Pierce Brosnan, he was probably my favourite Bond because that's who I grew up with, rather than the likes of Sean Connery and such. Um, I liked whenever they had Q in Pierce Brosnan's Bond, where he had all these different crazy gadgets, and the car had was controlled by his phone in Tomorrow Never Dies. You know, I like those kind of gadgets, but I like the way that they're doing Daniel Craig, where it's grounded in reality. It's definitely very enjoyable to watch.
And is that your take on it, Nicola, as well?
I thought, I thought the idea behind it was because Bond was sort of trailing off a little bit, wasn't it? And then the series of Bourne movies, the Jason Bourne and them came out, and I really felt that Casino Royale was trying to kind of jump on that sort of, like you say, realism, action movie that the Bourne films were. I mean, I know the good thing about the fact that, you know, Bond gets hit in Casino Royale, and he really does look like he's been hit. He's bloodied, and it's a bit more realistic. So, I mean, that was my take. I'm not a huge Bond fan. I've seen pretty much all of them, but I'm not a massive Bond fan. I like this change of direction. I think it needed something to, get it interesting again.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to this new one. I don't really know what to make of the trailer. It doesn't really show me that much. I'm quite excited to see that Christopher Waltz, who looks to be the baddie. I'm excited to see him because I've been impressed with him in the two movies I've seen him in, which are both big Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not a huge Bond fan, but I'm looking forward to this one. I like Craig as Bond. I think he's good.
So do you think it's plausible that Blofeld, who I believe that's who it is that Christoph Waltz is playing?
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's meant to be Ernst Stavro Blofeld, but this Blofeld is a bit different. While he probably still is a megalomaniac, he's also a computer hacker. That's something that's a wee bit more grounded in reality instead of a guy with sharks and frickin' lasers.
Of course, I mean the more era of Bond are camp and just ridiculous, aren't they? They're comedic more than anything. I mean they're great, and I do like watching them, but they're just foolish movies, and these are trying to be a bit more gritty and realistic, aren't they? With Craig in them. Like I say, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it probably needed the formula, needed picking up the backside, to be honest, just to change it up and make it fresh again.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I think I mean, as a big book reader, one of the things I did know is that Casino Royale was the very first Bond story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what they tried to do with Casino Royale was reboot the whole Bond set, the whole Bond setup. But they knew that they couldn't, like some of the classic Bond movies, your Goldfingers, your Man with the Golden Gun, that sort of thing. They knew that a lot of them couldn't be remade, and not because it's big extravagant sets with with sharks and tanks and guys with metal teeth, as you said. Well, it's more so the fact that they should be left to a different time of storytelling instead of this modern era, because as Danny rightly pointed out, a lot of movie franchises are going down the Chris Nolan way, where everything's more realistic. They've brung it back. There's less CGI and more acting for a start.
Can I just add, I actually think movies are better for it in some instances, but they can be worse off for it as well. Going down the reality route. Like, for example, you don't expect Marvel movies to be set in reality, but yet they kind of are.
They kind of break break the fourth wall when it comes to stuff like that. They have their own universe, but at the same time, still kind of connect to the universe that we're in. So, it helps when the because it's uh, I don't know it gives a sense of familiarity, um, a bit of connection as well when it comes to that. If you're sitting watching a film and they're talking about something that you know about, rather than it being completely over your head all the time, which is something about the James Bond, the new James Bonds that I quite like. Because I mean, at the same time, the old James Bonds, it was always super spy, kick everybody's ass, but about the back of the head and all the need to take them out. Whereas now you get Daniel Craig rolling about the floor, beating the hell out of people, taking punches and actually taking physical damage. You see it on him for the rest of the movie, whereas old James Bond movies, there's never a scratch on him.
Yeah, that's true, and he would always have his hair perfectly in perfect place all the time.
So
You know what I mean?
it's, I think I prefer these movies. I mean, if you were to go back and do all the old movies again and have it this way, then I could probably be a James Bond fan already. I'm because you go back and add this ultra realism to it where everything is a lot more realistic than what it was in the old movies.
Right. So back to the Spectre trailer itself. What were your verdicts on it? What about yourself, Danny? What did you like and dislike about it?
Well, Spectre sort of it surprised me, so I'm sort of still digesting it as such. But like, there was a few twists and turns. Like, I just like the overall feel of it. It has that Casino Royale feel, in my opinion. And it also has the feel of the last movie as well. Just the overall feel of it. I really like, and I really can't wait till it comes out.
Hmm. And yourself, Nicola, was there anything that disappointed you about the trailer?
Not really. I mean, as I say, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, it's got me interested. I'll go and see it at the cinema. But there wasn't really anything there that I thought, I'm not happy about that, or oh, that looks good. Although I did think that the car, I was quite taken by the car. It seems that they were turning to the beautiful cars that Bond is obviously known for, and that's quite a welcome return. I like that. I like that bit.
Yeah.
I think everybody likes the cars in James Bond. You would be lying if you said you didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
So they never got a car wrong, did they?
No.
You know. Now, well, obviously you would remember you'll remember the original Blofeld, whether the movie was in the pictures or when you were younger, when it was on the TV every Christmas. Uh, same as same as myself. Do you think Christoph Waltz is a good choice to play a character that, shall we say, so self-centered that he never notices he's a megalomaniac? Would you say that Christoph Waltz could pull off, Blofeld at his most maniacal, or do you think that this hacker Blofeld is a totally new kind of super baddie?
Um, I don't know. I mean, because he's a really accomplished actor. He's done a lot. I've given him like Muppets Most Wanted and some of the others, Blue and Green Hornet he was in as well, which he wasn't too good at. But I mean, he's done a lot of fantastic work. Won, I think he won an Academy Award for that as well. I mean, I don't want to, give my opinions far too early because again, it would just be based on the trailer, and there isn't enough there to actually decide what kind of character or what we want to play the Blofeld character. So it's one of those quite Nice ones, but I'm really excited for the movie. I also did notice, I don't know if you did, the signet ring from the trailer.
No, I didn't notice it.
Um,
Signet ring. If you go back and watch it again, it's the octopusy logo.
But that was also the logo for Spectre.
But it was obviously that was one of the ones that Blofeld was in as well. But they're clearly certain aspects of the movie.
Hmm.
can I just add a point? He was also in GoldenEye as one of the German officers. I'm looking on Wikipedia here on his filmography. He was in GoldenEye as the German spy in 1989.
So do you think that this Blofeld may actually be a returning sub-character? You know, it's
Uh,
20 years down the line and now it's time to take his revenge on Bond, because bear in mind, James Bond in the 007 thing is just a designation for an agent. You know, the agent has to take on the name James Bond, because there's a 006, we learned that in GoldenEye.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's the numbers. It's not the actual name. It's the code name, the double
Yeah, that's what I mean. When someone else becomes James Bond, or becomes 007, they have to take the name James Bond.
No, they take the number. They don't take the name.
Yeah, they take the number. It's to do with is it? I don't know exactly how it works, but I know it's the number they take rather than their name.
It's basically plausible deniability.
See, I always thought it was, you know, James Bond was the code name and the number was 007, and when they took the number, they had to take the code name because it's a coded designation.
Or the designation. That's what they're referred to when it comes to like their mission reports and stuff like that. It's never their names.
Well, that is very true. So, Nicola, do you think Christoph Waltz is going to make a good Blofeld? Do you think he's going to be the super mega baddie that he was in the previous Blofeld appearances, or would you say that he's going to be more, you know, because he's meant to be a hacker, he's going to be more orientated, shall we say, to the intellectual persuasion?
I don't know. I mean, I've only seen him in two movies really where he stood out, and obviously he was a baddie in Glorious, and I just think about how menacing he was in Inglorious, with really not doing an awful lot, and I think that he might bring that to the role of Blofeld. I think he's got the potential to be, you know, quite a menacing character. Just but being really understated. But that's my feeling about it anyway.
Well, personally, I think that Christoph Waltz as Ernst Stavro Blofeld is a touch of genius, because I think he'll bring, and not to take anything away from the previous actors who played Blofeld, but I think he'll bring a touch of class to Blofeld that we've never seen before. I don't think he'll be an ostentatious character like you said, Nicola. I don't think he's going to be, you know, out there and in your face Dr. Evil kind. I think he's going to be a very, you know, a very understated but very, you know, intense individual with a penchant for getting really annoyed really quickly at people who are less intelligent than he is. But I don't know, I just get that kind of feeling that if they're rebooting the Bond series, which it appears that they have done to a limited extent, by bringing it more, by basing it more in reality, I think that one of the things that they have to do as well is they have to do the same thing with the bad guys, and that's why I think this Blofeld, who's the first major returning, you know, consistent character other than James Bond in the James Bond movies, who doesn't work for MI6, I think they're making him the first one because this is a complete reboot of that character. So I think he's going to be more understated but more intense. You know, the scenes he'll be looking. It won't be. He'll be looking at everybody with disdain. It'll be more disgust. But you know, more along the lines of Guy Pearce when he played Mandarin. in Iron Man 3.
Mm.
You know, that kind of understated where nobody really, everybody's dead tense round about him, but that's because he's an intense guy. And you don't really kind of realise that this is the guy who's running it. Oh, he's conning everybody. I think this Blofeld will know for the start that he's the guy in charge. It's just what way does he control people? Is it because he can menace them? Is it because he's that intense that they know that he's got a hair trigger temper? I mean, I don't know what kind of feelings do you get, guys? Well, what about yourself? Do you get that kind of thing for Christoph Waltz?
I think he's going to play the character in a way that runs stuff to the sidelines. He's highly intelligent, so he's making other people think that what they're doing is their idea. Like Mr. White, the guy who seems to be running Spectre, I think that he's going to be the, like you pointed out with the Iron Man movie, the Mandarin type thing. Mr. White, I think, is going to be
The front man.
actually, he's going to be the one who's saying, right, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're going to do. But he's taking all his cues from Blofeld, who is standing in the sidelines saying, well, I'm just a analyst. That's all he's talking about. Well, I think that's the way he's going to play it. I think that's going to be the way that he shows himself. Well, it's going to be right up to the end of the film. That he's got a personal vendetta against James Bond. Because what I've seen in the trailer as well, it does look as if Spectre's main mission is to do is got to do with James Bond and his family. Because they went straight for Skyfall in the last movie as well, which is obviously James Bond's family's home.
Yeah.
So there is definitely something to do with James Bond's family that Spectre want, or possibly James Bond's family was a member of Spectre at one point, and they formed friends. It's definitely got a personal connection.
Could it make sense to say that this could be the James Bond franchise's Empire Strikes Back moment, where it turns out that Blofeld is actually Bond's brother?
Very possible. I mean, I don't think it's that easy, but you never know.
And what about yourself, Danny? Now we're running out of time, so I may have to cut you short. What do you think? Do you think Christoph Waltz is going to be a good bad guy, or do you think that there's going to be surprises in store?
Definitely surprises. Every James Bond film has a surprise. I definitely gonna think there's gonna be a surprise in store. I don't know what though. That's all I have to say.
Well, folks, all that's left for me to say is that this has been the official livecast of RambleMedia.tv. This is the Super Game Bros. I'd like to thank first Nicola for joining us this week.
Thank you very much.
Obviously yourself, Will.
Mm.
And you as well, Danny, for doing the social media thing for us this week.
Alright, thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We're available on zencast.com and iTunes. And we shall be back next week where we are going to be discussing esports. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I said earlier on that we've got 3 announcements. And one of those announcements is in regards to esports. And more of that will actually be revealed due to the limits of time this week, next week on the show. So once again, thank you for joining us. We've been the Super Game Bros. Yous have been the audience. Thank you. Goodbye.